You live such a convincingly fabricated lie that you've come to call it freedom. Every day you wake up, look in the mirror, and see a free man. Free to choose the job you despise, free to accept mere crumbs of respect, free to repeat the same patterns that keep you invisible. But Sartre already knew this. He said that man is condemned to be free, and you've turned this condemnation into a tasteless joke. You're not truly free when you make a choice. You're free when you understand why you made it. The difference between these two states is the difference between truly living and merely existing, between being a man and being a well-dressed ghost wandering through a life you didn't build. Here, you'll understand why your freedom is a lie, and how Sartre can teach you to live authentically, even if it means confronting everything you believe about yourself. Let me know in the comments if you've ever realized that you were living on autopilot. I read every one, and if this video resonates with someone you know who needs to wake up to reality, share it now. Sometimes that's all the push they need. You exist within an invisible script and call it personality, waking up at the same time, complaining about the same problems, choosing among the same limited options someone has placed before you. You've convinced yourself you're in control because you can choose between A or B, but you've never questioned who created these options. Modern man has become an expert in the lie of freedom. Freedom to consume what they're sold. Freedom to work where they're accepted. Freedom to love who tolerates them. You choose the brand of car, but you don't choose whether you want to live in a society that defines you by what you drive. You pick your career, but you don't choose whether to live in a reality where your worth as a man depends on what you produce. Your life has become a preset menu, and you're proud of choosing the dish, unaware that you're eating in a prison. Even worse, you defend this prison, because it's easier to pretend you're free than to admit you've never learned to question the bars that confine you. The diagnosis is simple and brutal. You're living a borrowed life, calling it autonomy. Sartre revolutionized philosophy when he said that existence precedes essence. That means you exist first, and only then decide who you will be. There is no fixed human nature that defines you. There is no pre-written script you must follow. You are free to reinvent yourself at every moment, but that freedom is terrifying. Most people cannot bear this complete responsibility, so they create what Sartre calls bad faith, a sophisticated self-deception that allows obedience without guilt. You say, "That's just who I am," as if you were born programmed that way. "I can't change. It's stronger than me. I've always been like this." All these phrases are lies you tell yourself to escape true freedom. For Sartre, when you act in bad faith, you're pretending to be something, like a stone or a tree, rather than a free human being. You transform into an object that merely reacts to the environment instead of a subject who creates their reality. And the worst part is, you do this consciously. You know you're lying to yourself, but the lie is more comfortable than the truth. Sartrean freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. It's about taking full responsibility for your choices, even when they have been influenced by others. Even when the entire world conspired for you to choose a certain way, you still choose. And that choice defines you more than any external circumstance. I know a guy who spent 10 years complaining about the same job. Every day he would come home irritated, recounting how his boss was an idiot, how his colleagues were fake, how the company didn't value anyone. But he kept sticking around, because he had bills to pay, because the market was tough, because he was nearing 40 and couldn't risk anymore. One day I asked him, "Why don't you leave?" And he gave me the classic bad faith answer. "I don't have a choice. I need to work." As if that were the only job in the world. As if he were a victim of circumstance, rather than someone who chose every day to stay in a situation that was destroying him. He convinced himself he was too responsible to leave, too mature to dream, too realistic to try. But the truth is, he was afraid. Afraid to discover he might not be as competent as he thought. Afraid to leave his comfort zone and realize life could be different, and that he had wasted years pretending he had no choice. That guy was living in a glass prison. He could see the world outside, but refused to break down the wall. And the most tragic part is, he defended that prison as if it were a fortress. "At least I have stability," he said. "Stability to be unhappy with security, freedom to choose among different forms of suffering." The problem isn't that you lack choices. The issue is that you choose unconsciously. You let others define your options, then take pride in selecting within that boundary. It's as if someone locked you in a room with two doors, and you feel free because you can choose which one to leave through. Sartre demonstrates that true freedom begins when you question who built the room, when you ask why there are only two doors, when you consider the possibility of breaking down the wall. But this requires something most people have lost, the courage to face the anguish of absolute freedom. Because when you realize you are completely free, you also realize you are entirely responsible. You can no longer blame your parents, society, or circumstances. Every failure is yours. Every victory is yours. Every moment of mediocrity is a choice you made. And that is more frightening than any external prison. Sartre's strategy is simple and brutal. Stop pretending you're a victim of your own decisions. Take responsibility for everything you have today, even the things you hate. Because if you chose, you can choose differently. But if you keep pretending you had no choice, you'll remain trapped in the same old life. I knew another man who at 35 gave everything up. A solid career, a stable marriage, a house. Everyone said he had lost his mind. "You have everything a man could want," they said. But he looked at his life and saw a gilded prison. He moved to another city, started a business he'd always dreamed of, ended a relationship that worked but didn't make him happy. He lost money, friends, his family's approval. But he gained something he'd never had, the feeling of truly living his own life. It wasn't easy. He had panic attacks, sleepless nights, devastating doubts, but he understood what Sartre meant by authentic freedom. It's not the freedom to do whatever you want, it's the freedom to choose who you will be, even when everyone else thinks you're wrong. 3 years later, he told me something I'll never forget. For the first time in my life, I look in the mirror and recognize who's staring back at me. Before, I saw a stranger wearing my clothes. That is the power of Sartrean freedom. It doesn't guarantee success nor approval, but it guarantees authenticity. If any part of this video has made you reflect on the choices you've made without questioning, mark this moment in the comments. That's where change begins. And if this resonated with you so far, leave a like. Not for me, but to acknowledge that you've understood the difference between true freedom and false freedom. The turning point starts when you stop defending your limitations as if they were virtues. Stop saying, "That's just who I am," and start asking yourself, "Why did I choose to be this way?" Cease using responsibility as an excuse for cowardice and begin leveraging freedom as a tool for transformation. Sartre teaches that anguish signals that you're on the right path. When you feel that tightness in your chest at the thought of a radical change, it's not your body warning you to stop. It's your conscience alerting you that you're about to make a genuine choice for the first time. The practical application is devastating in its simplicity. Look at your life and identify everything you hate but continue doing. The job that drains you, the relationship that diminishes you, the friends who criticize more than support. Now, stop inventing reasons to carry on. Stop pretending you have no choice. Are you afraid to leave? Normal? Sartre said that freedom is accompanied by anguish. Are you afraid to make mistakes? Also normal. But would you rather err trying to be who you truly are, or succeed by pretending to be what others expect? The security you seek by maintaining everything as is the same as that of a prisoner who has grown accustomed to his cell. Start small if necessary. Choose something simple that you do out of habit and do it differently. Not because it will change your life, but because it will remind you that you can choose. And when you remember this, you'll realize that freedom is a muscle that must be exercised daily. The difference between a free man and a prisoner isn't in external circumstances. It lies in internal awareness. The free man knows he's choosing, even when options are limited. The prisoner pretends he's not choosing, even when the entire world is at his disposal. Sartre doesn't want you to feel comfortable. He wants you to be conscious. He doesn't promise that freedom will make you happy. He promises it will make you real, And that's worth more than any borrowed happiness built on lies about yourself. You have spent your entire life hearing that you are free. But no one taught you that true freedom hurts. Questioning everything you believe about yourself is a painful and solitary process. Taking full responsibility for your choices means relinquishing all excuses that keep you safe within mediocrity. Yet, on the other side of this pain lies something most people never experience: the sensation of truly living your own life, looking in the mirror and recognizing who is there, making decisions that originate from within, not from external influences, being the author of your story, not a character in someone else's narrative. The question Sartre leaves for you is not whether you want to be free. It is whether you have the courage to admit that you already are free, and that everything you have today is the result of your own choices, even the things you despise, even the situations you call dead ends. Now tell me, will you continue to pretend to be a victim of your own decisions, or have you already understood that true freedom begins the moment you stop lying to yourself? Write this in the comments. It's your pact to break free from self-deception. And if you want to keep hearing truths that go against everything you've been taught about freedom and responsibility, subscribe. Here, the comfort of lies cannot survive. Only the courage of truth persists.